council chambers. We're live and on Zoom. In doing so, calling to order, do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from June 21st?
Motion to approve the minutes from June.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes pass. The meeting is open to public comment as per usual. And do we have any Zoom comments, people in queue? I don't think so, John.
No.
Okay, so
Now that we're here.
now that we're live,
Yes.
do we have anybody in the public that would like their 2 minutes at the podium to speak? Yes, sir. Please go to the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Steve Harvey. I live at 25 Fieldstone Drive in Rocky Hill. I've been a resident for 24 years. And a couple of brief things. First of all, I apologize. I thought we were going to have a little bit more time than the 2 minutes. I was only made aware of that a little while ago. The reason for being here, let me add one other thing. I'm a very pro-police background. Grandfather, 2 nephews, okay? But the reason we're here is to bring up some points in our area. Gabe, Bob, and myself have been appointed by our neighborhood to come forth and ask a lot of questions. If I had known we were going to only have 2 minutes each, we would have brought more people to ask questions. But we've been talking to a lot of people in town. Gabe's house, for the second time this year, was hit, okay, by criminals. And the people that we're talking with are scared, they're nervous, they're mad, and they're angry, okay? Most of us who've lived here for a long time love this town. And when I have to worry about driving into my backyard and I got to close my garage before I can go to the backyard to finish cutting my grass, that's not what I came here for. And I'm annoyed about it. And when I'm talking with people, I'm hearing, why are the laws favoring the criminals? Okay? Where's the responsibility that they have? How come there's no repercussions? And what we're hearing, talking with different people, okay, is that in a lot of cases, the police have their hands tied based on the laws that are in place right now. We understand that it's a twofold problem. The first being that in order to make change, policy has to change, law has to change, and that takes a long time. What we're here for, we're concerned about right now, okay? Gabe will talk to you about his particular situation, but we had a house burned down on our street, you probably all know, big news, but it's like a freaking parade. Everybody drives by. We've had more people coming around. Normally, we can police and watch the neighborhood ourselves, okay? So people are really worried about that. And we understand, I understand from number 1132 out of the bill, 6667, okay, about, protected class. But in the last couple of weeks, we've had a big presence of police officers on our street. Okay, more than it has been, and obviously for different reasons. And by the way, thank you so much. Okay, there was one just before we came here. We used to have a police officer in front of my house, okay, and he would nail people flying down from Century Hills at least every other week, and they would nail people constantly. We don't see them there anymore, and the people fly through them. As we were driving down on Main Street, as we were pulling down to go across Main Street, right at the light, a truck and a car, both through red lights. We were green for about 3 seconds before they went flying through. These are some of the things that the people that we in our neighborhood are talking to us about. Okay, and one of the things is, it seems like the criminals, the laws are based to help them and not law-abiding citizens like us. And they seem to know all of the loopholes. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to get out in 6 hours, and I'm going to be sent back to my parents because they're going to let me out. Whatever happened to bail? Okay? And why are they sending them back to their parents in case if their parents are the ones who let them go out and do what they're doing? I'm not talking juveniles. I'm talking about criminals. And the people in this town are starting to get really upset about it. I've heard a lot of people talk about, what can we do? Should we do more block watches? Should we privatize our streets? Okay? I've heard some other crazy things too, which we don't need to go into. But people in town are really getting upset. I don't know if you guys are getting that message through your contacts. I don't know. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, because eventually somebody is going to get seriously hurt. Okay? His house was broken into. In Glastonbury, somebody got shot. Gabe will talk to you about the picture that he took on his ring and what happened after that. But I've been here for a long time. I love this town. But man, I'm scared. When I lived in East Hartford, our house got robbed. For 6 months after that, my whole family was traumatized. We were afraid to come in the house from the outside. And I'm sure that, you know that doesn't go away for a long time. And more people are getting hit. My neighbor on the left side, his daughter lives behind the burger place over near Harvest Lane. That's where my other son lives. Okay? Car stolen. Across the street from us on Whitfield Crossing, their son had his BMW stolen. Don Unwin, who used to be the mayor, chased people out of his backyard about 2 weeks ago. I mean, I know they have easy access to get onto 91, okay? We need to do something, not change the laws. We need something, to make everybody feel safer. That's what I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Steve?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Steve Harvey, and your address again was?
Sure, 25
Fieldstone Drive.
Yep.
Okay, hello everybody. Appreciate you folks allowing us to visit with you. And
Name and address?
yeah, my name is Gabe Cabrera. I live at 41 Fieldstone Drive. I've lived in Rocky Hill since 1981. I'm here today representing myself and also speaking for my very concerned neighbors with what's going on in the town in general, but in particular on our street. Over the past 40 years, I think Rocky Hill has been a tremendous community to live in. I raised my family here. I have nothing but good memories about this town. I think it's a great town. But things have changed, and I recognize that the things that are changing are beyond Rocky Hill's control. But I do believe, as a community, we need to take action, and we need to show that we're united, and we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior on an ongoing basis. Twice this year, as my friend Steve Harvey alluded, my house has been invaded. And I say invaded because the thieves, these hoodlums, have entered my garage. And I consider that to be part of my home. First, January 18th, Martin Luther King Day, 2:30 in the afternoon. My wife and I are home. Our garage doors, granted, were open. Thieves, I don't know if there were one or two, we didn't have the Ring camera at that time, came into the garage and stole my wife's new Volvo. What's really disconcerting about this episode is that we were home. It was the afternoon. I always thought of this type of crime as something that happened in the middle of the night, when you were not visible, and these guys would come in and strike. I mean, they're so brazen now that they're doing this in the middle of the day. Kids are playing, neighbors are cutting the grass, people are walking. I mean, this is a disaster waiting to happen, my friends. I mean, what happened in New Britain with that poor jogger being hit by the car, what happened in Glastonbury with a poor woman defending her property being shot at, it's going to happen in Rocky Hill. Back to my story, we were very fortunate. We recovered the car later that evening in the North End of Hartford. And it was due primarily to the fact that the car has some very sophisticated tracking systems. So, I think the perpetrators were spooked and abandoned the car in the North End of Hartford. Hartford police recovered it, and we got it back. I kind of looked at that incident as something that happened, and I didn't have any pictures of the individuals that perpetrated the crime. So I kind of went about my life saying, this is a one-time deal. This is not going to happen again. Well, on June 26th, a Saturday, 3:30 in the afternoon again, there is a second attempt to steal a car out of the garage. I had installed a Ring camera as a result of the first incident, so we captured the whole thing on film. Now, that film was turned over to the Rocky Hill Police Department. Officer Estrella investigated, very competent patrolman. He was very kind. He was very good at what he did. And he was, concerned, as I was, that here we go again in the middle of an afternoon. But I got to tell you, seeing pictures, seeing actual photos of the perpetrators, seeing this, these are not kids. These are hoodlums. These are criminals. These people should be in jail. They come out of the back seat of a car, totally covered, enter the garage, try to steal the car, find that they cannot steal the car, exit the garage, and speed away. So, I've come to realize that, at least for me personally, this is much more than a robbery attempt. This, for me now, has become a safety issue. And I can tell you that I have two grandsons, ages 7 and 4, who love to visit and spend time at Grandma's house. I've always felt through the years safe with them playing in my yard and in our cul-de-sac. On June 26th, the day that the attempted stealing took place, they had left the house 15 minutes prior to the incident. Now, I'm not sure what the outcome would have been had they been there and these thieves enter the garage. As they're in and out of the garage looking for balls, looking for bats, looking for nets. I don't know what would have happened if they walked in and weren't, affronted by these individuals. Frankly, I can go out and replace a car. I can buy a car tomorrow. But I cannot replace my grandsons. I cannot replace my wife. I cannot replace my neighbors. I said it once, and I don't want to be repetitive, but I am convinced that it's a matter of time before it gets seriously hurt, or worse yet, killed in Rocky Hill. When you have, a law-abiding citizen going about their business, interrupts one of these crooks, something bad's going to happen. Someone is going to be carrying a gun, someone is going to react, and a citizen, a law-abiding citizen, is going to get shot. Now, I respect the police, I always have, but I do think you have a hard job. Your hands are tied, there's very little you can do with these thugs. But quite frankly, the town needs to put pressure on the governor and the state legislature to change the laws. This cannot be tolerated. I assume you all have families, and you all would be worried as I am if this happened to you. I happened to win the lottery twice. I don't know why they came back. But I can tell you, though, that I didn't move to Rocky Hill 40 years ago so I could look over my shoulder every time I went outside, so I would have to lock my doors every time I was home, and every time I open my garage door, expect to see someone stealing my car. I implore you to do whatever you can within your power to, again, follow up and do what is necessary to, again, gain the confidence of citizens. And I can tell you, I don't know how many of you get out in the community and speak to citizens, but there's a lot of concern out there. And the concern is not only over property, but it's over safety. So with that, I'll close, but I can tell you, as a private citizen, a law-abiding citizen, I think this needs to be managed by someone. Thank you.
Mr. Cabrera, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Anyone else from the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to department reports. And what we're going to do is I'll entertain a motion to move the police report up to A, in front of fire report for the convenience of this public comment.
Mr. Chairman, motion to move the report for the police,
Do I have a second?
number 1.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we're hearing departmental reports now, and we will be hearing from Police Chief Custer on his normal monthly report.
Okay, so I'll go through the normal report and maybe take an opportunity as well to respond to some of the comments that were made. So first of all, statistically for the month of June, we had 3,146 calls for service through our dispatch center. For the month, we had 16 criminal arrests, and we investigated 40 motor vehicle accidents, 35 without injuries, 5 with injuries. In addition to that, a total of 36 infractions were issued for the month. An additional 145 warnings were issued for a total of 181 motor vehicle stops for the month. We presented 7 community service events, and our training hours for the month were 79. We had 3 stolen motor vehicles in the month of June, and our thefts from motor vehicles were a total of 17 for June. So a couple comments. The stolen motor vehicles are basically now at the levels they were pre-pandemic. So we saw a huge spike in stolen motor vehicles in town through the pandemic months, and basically since I would go back to starting in February, they pretty much have gone back to the levels we saw pre-pandemic. The thefts from motor vehicles fluctuate from month to month, and unfortunately we consistently see vehicles that are unlocked, vehicles with valuables inside, and we've been talking about this as a public safety committee, I don't know for how long.
2020, since
Yeah,
2020.
yeah, well into.
Early 2020.
Exactly. So that continues to be a hindrance for us. And I'm not putting the blame on the citizenry, but it is a factor, and it is a way to help address this problem is to lock your vehicles, keep valuables from inside, and unfortunately, I might have to add to that, keep your garage door closed as well, especially during the evening hours and nighttime hours. In response to this problem, I just wanted to make the individuals who are here aware that we've taken a number of steps here in town. The police department has increased their staffing on the shifts to increase patrol coverage. We've asked for additional officers, and I'm happy to report that the council delivered for us and it gave us 2 additional officers, which is going to be able to allow us to increase our minimum staffing on shifts. So you should see a difference if you haven't already. We have an officer embedded with the Hartford Police Auto Theft Unit, and I do have a incident to report shortly from that. He's been working with their unit and garnering a lot of good intelligence. We're still sharing intelligence with the mid-state police departments. We're one of the few departments in the state that are doing DNA swabs on all vehicles that are stolen. So if a vehicle is stolen from town, and then if and when it's recovered, we earmark all of them to be held so we can do DNA swabs, and we will respond, and we'll do that. There are some problems with that relative to juveniles, but I want you to know we're one of the few departments that's taken the extra step to do that. And then finally, we've been in constant communication with our state representative, sharing our concerns as a department, sharing our concerns as the Central Connecticut Chiefs of Police, and we've had extensive dialogue and improvements that we feel that need to be made in the juvenile justice system to address some of these concerns. You're not the only ones. A lot of people are upset. A lot of people are angry. A lot of people are scared. We're hearing it, all right? Not only in Rocky Hill, but across the state. I concur with you that something bad is going to happen. It's already happened in New Britain, and I fear it's not over yet. Gun permits are through the roof statewide, triple of what they were 2 years ago. We know how easy it is to get a gun permit. It concerns me that many people are carrying weapons that maybe not the best trained in the carrying of weapons. So I agree with you. The concern is there. It's a perfect storm. And relative to the incidents that are happening, there's no longer a certain time of day. There's no longer a certain day of the week. They'll come in broad daylight. They'll come at night. We've seen it all. And you mentioned the driving. Driving etiquette has gone out the window as well. I'm not going to put all the blame on some of the legislation that's occurred in the past year and a half, but the fact remains, if you're a juvenile and you are not afraid of getting caught by the police, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Hartford police officers are telling me that people third in line on a red light will just pull out a line and drive right through because they don't want to wait. And they're not worried about the police because they know the police can't pursue them if they try to pull them over, because we're barred from engaging these vehicles for property crimes, for motor vehicle violations. I could go on. All right, all of these concerns have been conveyed to our state rep, and hopefully we'll see some changes. But I want you to know that we're aware of it, and we're doing everything we can with the resources that we have to address this problem. I mentioned that we have an officer that's embedded with the Hartford Auto Theft Unit, and he was working with them on July 8th. And on July 8th, about 3:07 in the afternoon, he was with the unit, and a call came in, this is again in Hartford, of a serious assault involving firearms. And our officer, our detective, Anthony Bongiovanni, who's with the unit, was close by. They got a description of the car that was involved. It turned out later that actually 4 people had been shot in this incident. And the officers, within a short period of time, were able to locate the vehicle. There was a pursuit. Pursuit was allowed because it's a felony now. Okay, it's not property crime. It's not a motor vehicle. The serious assault with weapons, obviously people shot. The pursuit ended in Windsor, and 5 individuals bailed out of the car and into the woods, and through the efforts of the officers, including Detective Bongiovanni, all 5 of them were apprehended. All 5 of them. 2 18-year-olds, 3 17-year-olds, and 2 of them had guns on them. This is what we're dealing with. So we're seeing the proliferation all around, and I think it just kind of validates, what we've been talking about all this time all along. It's a small percentage of individuals. It's a small percentage of juveniles. What we have been really emphasizing to our state rep is, listen, we don't want to lock up juveniles. That's not what we're about. But we want some kind of repercussions for that small percentage of hardcore, you call them thugs, there's plenty of words that apply, but they're dangerous. They're clearly dangerous, and they're not to be taken lightly. And it is our hopes that with this special session, there's going to be a follow-up session up there on juvenile justice reform, that they will take some steps to address this small percentage. Because what's happened is they're repeat offenders, there's no consequences, and we see an escalation in behavior. Just circling back real quickly, one other thing we're seeing in town now that's almost become more of a problem than the stolen vehicles is the theft of catalytic converters. They've increased dramatically the last several months. Our intelligence and meetings with regional agencies have confirmed this is happening now in several towns in Connecticut. So you can add that to the list. Apparently, catalytic converters contain precious metals that can be brought to, I'm not quite sure where, And these people can steal them off of cars, cut them off of cars, and then fence them and get cash for them, particularly commercial vehicles. So just a concern in public service announcement to any commercial establishment in town. We've had the bus company, we've had any business with fleets have been hit. We suspect part of it is because at night there's nobody there. We also suspect it's because they're higher off the ground, they're easier to get underneath to cut. So commercial vehicles, SUVs, really seem to be the target. But I just want to make note of that. That's become a real problem for us, as well as the surrounding communities as well. Finally, our staffing report. We have 3 vacancies. We're in the process of filling one of those right now. We should have an officer on board in mid to late August, and working on the other 2 vacancies. Those were created by the 2 additional officers that you gave us. Thank you, but we're moving swiftly on it. Other than that, we're at full staffing. 1 officer on medical leave. I'm not sure when he'll be back. And I believe that's all I have. I've tried to kind of highlight and circle back on some of your concerns. Any questions would have to be through the chair.
So while we're asking questions, if I could get the AV department to put up Exhibit 1. Could we get Exhibit 1 put up on the screen, and folks at home that are watching? In any event, I turn to Councilor Emmanuel for questions.
Yeah, a couple, Chief. Do you have a plot map of the last couple of years of the thefts, car thefts?
In town?
Yeah, of where they're occurring. Are they mostly west of Cromwell Avenue? Are they off the Silestine? I mean, have you seen any patterns or anything?
Yeah, the pattern is they tend to stick to the main roads. Not all cases. Obviously, they're branching off now deeper into some of the neighborhoods, but consistently the higher numbers come from Silestine, Cromwell Avenue, your east-west main quarters, Elm Street. So it's just recently we started seeing that bleeding off into some of the smaller neighborhoods. Obviously, the attractive, well-to-do neighborhoods are, targeted more often than maybe, say, older homes on, the east side. But we don't have the exact locations, all locations. We could go back and get that. We have the numbers.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had something that maybe at the next meeting you could just show us, but if you have to dig around, just maybe in the future. The other thing regarding the catalytic converters, have you sent out any communication to repair shops and the bus company if they don't have cameras to be diligent and things like that? So it's not, so they know
Yeah.
that it's occurring?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's occurred when we were taking the report. But, we were just thinking we're at the point now, maybe a PSA in town wouldn't be a bad idea. But, it's a balance. You don't want to alarm people anymore either. There's just so much going on. But I think it's an offshoot of what we're seeing with the thefts from motor vehicles and stolen motor vehicles.
Right. And then finally, on the recruits, are you still focused on certified, or are you starting from the true, the younger ones that want to start out fresh and go through the academy and everything?
I'd like the certifieds. As long as we continue to get a high-quality pool of officers interested. We've had excellent luck with them. They take basically 4 weeks to train through field training versus 16 plus the academy, and they're generally experienced. So we'll look at certifieds first for those 2 openings.
Okay, all right, thanks, Ed.
Sure. If you could move to slide 2, thefts from motor vehicle, and you just will note that the line being drawn through the graph, the one that stops short, that's the current year, and it's running on both examples. So now you'll have the second half of the slide running hot over prior years, running higher average numbers than prior years. So that's all it's meant to show. And I turn to Councilor Prakash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, I have a question for you, and then I have a comment actually, but I will ask the question first. In terms of the protocol for chasing, is there a local solution for that? My understanding, it has to come from the state, right?
Well, changes in legislation would have to go through the state. But if you're asking, is there a solution, is there a potential answer?
Right, for somebody like the example you gave, right? Something as simple as somebody just, breaking the light, just going through the red light, right? I mean, I'm not even talking about, invading somebody's home.
Right. I think the answer to that, and we've talked about it in the past, is technology. We're going to have to get deeper into technology if we continue to see laws that restrict our ability to do our job. And, what comes to mind is something like what you see in Hartford, which basically now has cameras throughout the city. This incident that I just reported on involving Detective Bongiovanni, all of it was captured, including the shooting,
Right.
On cameras. It was through the cameras that we got a description of the car. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been garnered. So, we've talked, as a committee, we've talked, with the mayor and State Representative Woods about funding and possibly looking at exploring cameras in town. I know that's looked down upon by some citizens, Big Brother, government, et
Like a little
cetera.
draconian, yeah.
Yeah, so it's another fine line. You're walking there, but just in my professional circle, speaking with my colleagues, we're convinced it's probably going to be
Technology.
technology. It's all we're going to have left.
And one other question I had, Chief, for you was, in terms of patrols, my understanding is that the patrols have gone up. Can you talk a little bit about that as well, in terms of the material change in the number of patrols and how you do them and how do you approach that?
Well, it was several months ago, we got hit with that real severe wave in town. For an extensive period of time, we actually, through overtime, we beefed up all the patrols. And again, we had to do all three because there's just no rhyme or reason in terms of when these things are occurring. And at the same point, we've also increased our motor vehicle stops in town. So we're trying to at least create the illusion of omnipresence. We're stopping vehicles. Those are on the increase. We're tracking those now as well. And we did see a result. We saw a decline. Now, it could have been luck. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so, too.
presence clearly sends a signal to any would-be thief, criminal, thug, whatever, that the police are out there and they're active. So we've maintained those high level of motor vehicle stops. I pulled back the overtime, but we are maintaining the staffing because we've made some internal reassignments in the department, which has freed up people now to get onto patrol. And with the additional two, once we get them on, they will be added to the patrol staff as well. So I think it's working. I think it has an effect. Again, we're trying to do all we can with what we have.
Thank you, Chief. So, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to thank the members of the community, Mr. Harvey and Mr. Cabrera here, for coming here and talking about this issue because, as the Chief mentioned, we have been talking about this on this committee, this issue on the committee for like quite a while. And I have said this before, I'm going to repeat this. I think some of the comments the members of the community made, I have made similar comments before, that this is a disaster waiting to happen. I said this like a year ago. And if you go through any Google search, like you'll find like the incidents in Glastonbury, you'll find stuff in New Britain. Chief of Police in New Britain said his department identified 9 juveniles who were arrested an average of 18 times between the ages 12 to 17. Crimes include like whole list of stuff like larceny, assault, all kinds of stuff. And this is from the CD Examiner, right? So I read this and I say like, what is wrong with this picture? And in terms of local stuff, and thank you for pointing some of the things you have been doing. I know it's not perfect, but hopefully we are making progress. So in terms of local leadership, the mayor ran a campaign, the Lock It and Lose It campaign last time, in terms of the local awareness, the engagement from the public, right? And I think it was a great success in terms of the engagement, right? But if you think about it, like, there are things which go beyond engagement. Like, okay, if you are being invaded, like, what are you supposed to do? What are a person supposed to do who's in this home? So things like that. Yeah, you can lock your stuff. So every little bit helps. So those things have been out there. But then, in terms of like funding the cops, like, we have two positions, new positions. We funded those this in the budget year, this budget year, right? And then, there are other things like, added patrol and things like that. But there are limits to this, right? There are limits to local action. A town council and a mayor cannot legislate, pass, or, amend state laws. So let's talk about that, right? It feels like last year, but it was actually in, I think, January or February. Mr. Chairman, we, in this council, we passed a resolution, a Republican initiative that passed 6-3 and was sent to the governor. And it asked the governor, requested the governor and the state to do more to address car thefts and motor vehicle break-ins, just so that they can help us at the state level to get things right here, right? And last thing I would say on this is, I think it's time for our state leadership, include the governor and our state rep and state senator, to take ownership of this issue and actually get actively involved in solving this problem. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Chief, we found out that Officer Upper Brass is on patrol, going on patrol, so they're out there with the young guys, the
Yes.
newers, and all that, and 2 more are in the pipeline. When do you think we're going to have the full complement of patrol hitting the streets? I mean, the visibility is definitely up, and you'll notice around town that they travel 2 crews. I mean, they're kind of in a general area, so they might not have to chase. They can do a little block and tackle. But when are we going to see the full force of the new force?
So we have 2 candidates, actually potentially 3, I think, still on the list from the last exam process that we had. Highly qualified individuals. So just a matter of reaching out to them. We've already made contact with them, getting them in, conditional offers made, and then doing the background. Again, certified officers wouldn't have to go to the academy, quick turnaround. I'm going to guess probably by the end of September. Just it could be sooner, but we have to finish that background.
So I would think that's pretty quick, seeing how we just had the budget approved in June to add these 2 bodies and get them through. And given that the department is nationally certified, not all police departments in the state are nationally certified. This department got their national accreditation earlier this year. And so we hold them to a higher standard, and to our patrol officers. We're not going to just put anybody out on the street, and we're not looking for cowboys. We're looking for professional folks who can help you with these issues. Having asked that question, I want to say that I think, because we've been studying this and we've been pushing every button that we can push. Now we're pushing buttons up, or trying to push buttons at the state level. But, the pandemic forced a lot of us home, and I think, Chief, we kicked it around a little bit, but I don't know if we have any hard data to confirm it. But people are home and the cars are home. The target is now home. It's in the driveway. It's not at the mall where a lot of car thefts were. So I want to think that it's part of the problem that we're getting hit where we live now, because everybody's home and working from home. And so their appetite to run the malls has probably changed to wanting to run the streets of a nice town like Rocky Hill, where the more expensive car is. But you are right. A lot of the cars are left open, but of course you want to let your car be open in your own garage. I don't know how you fix that one, but certainly on the street or in your driveway, you usually lock it up before you go to bed. Those are the extent of my comments, but I'm going to allow just one comment from the floor, from the podium, if you want to make one comment. Short, ending comment. Thank you very much.
Can it be a question rather than a comment?
You can raise a question into the air. We're not going to go back and forth with you, okay?
Okay.
It's a one-way for now. Thank you.
The chief mentioned that you interact with your other peers and that you've gone to the state and requested them to kind of do something to change the laws. Okay? That goes back to the question that I had I reviewed the January 7th meeting. You sent the letter to the representatives and things like that. One of the questions was, did anything happen? But more importantly, one of the thoughts that came out from people that we've talked to, as the police chiefs have joined together, okay, and gone to the state and said, come on, guys, do something for us. Is it possible? I don't know if this is the venue or if it's at the town council meeting. Can all of the local communities, Cromwell, Weathersfield, Berlin, Newington, get together and go to the governor and the legislative branch and say, come on, guys, you got to get your stuff together. Okay? Can they do that? I mean, can you bring that to their attention? Because when we go to the next meeting at 7 o'clock, we're not going to have enough to bring up the things that we want to talk to. But can they form a mid-state group, kind of like the police officers have, and bring it to the governor and say, look, we're the local, we're getting hit really hard here. What are you guys going to do for us?
Thank you. Any final one comment out?
I have two comments, but I understand your restrictions, so I'll limit it to one. When I was invaded, both times I provided detailed information to the officers investigating. The second time, I provided footage of my Ring camera. I never heard back from anybody in the police department as to, did anything happen? Do we have any leads? Were there any perpetrators arrested? I think it would be helpful for citizens who have been invaded to provide some feedback and to show that the police is actually doing something with what is being given to them to try to track these criminals. As a citizen and a taxpayer in Rocky Hill, I don't think this is a request that is out of bounds. Again, I am fearful for my life. I am providing you pictures of a car, pictures of criminals, and yet I hear nothing back. I think that needs to be looked at. And again, I understand privacy laws. I've been in business for a long time. I know there's only so much you can reveal, but it'd be very helpful for citizens to know or at least feel that the police department is following up on the information that we're providing. And since you're not going to let me make the second comment, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cabrera. I appreciate that. The mayor is attending this meeting, and
I know it's not public comment, but could I have information I could answer.
All relative.
Okay, so one of the things, Lisa Morales, 23 Autumn Circle, Daniel. One of the things I can speak to is you had questioned, can all the communities come together? And absolutely, yes, they can, and we have, and we continue to do that. The first time that we came together as a group of mayors, Cromwell, Newington, Weathersfield, and so on. We sat down, we just said, what can we do, right? How can we reach lawmakers and the governor? That's where the resolution came from. And then it was a matter of me and other mayors going, meeting with ranking members up at the legislature, calling time and time again to the governor's office saying, please, we need you to make this a top priority, because then maybe lawmakers will take it seriously. Not that they're not taking it seriously, but they'll give it the attention that it needs, right? So you questioned what happened, right? So what happened with the laws? Well, not a lot of significant laws came out, not what we need to happen, but I have been working on this still, and I can tell you that there was a law that the legislature did pass. It's Public Act 21-33, which does establish the crime of enticing a juvenile to commit a criminal act. And so that was prompted by concerns that you had these older kids who were like 18, right? Again, it's not enough. So the issue is, okay, what do we do now? We keep pursuing it. And that's what we're doing. So as a matter of fact, there is a bipartisan group of lawmakers who is meeting now with various stakeholders, and I'm looking to get in on one of those meetings. I put a call out today, actually, because they're considering two new laws. One would be to eliminate a current 6-hour limit on detaining certain juveniles without a court order. And the second would be to require repeat offenders to be electronically monitored until their criminal proceedings are resolved. So again, I'm going to try to get in on one or more of those meetings to voice what our residents are saying and what their concerns are here. And then finally, another thing for folks who are interested in what they might be able to do, Glastonbury is having a public meeting similar to one that we held. And so I would encourage, I don't have the date. John, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
This Thursday, June 22nd, over at their Riverfront Community Center on 300 Wells Street at 6:30.
So anyone who's interested in participating there is because, you know, we all are, you know, we're all in this together. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. That being said, we're going to move to the ambulance report. And welcome, we have the new chief of the ambulance, Mr. Goodrich.
Thank you.
Brian Goodrich.
That's correct. For the month of June, we had a total of 305 calls, which the year-to-date would bring us to 1,966. We currently have 78 members with the association, with 3 new applications being worked through now. During the month, we did 64 hours of training, which included driver training and diabetic emergencies. On August 6th, we're going to be sending an ambulance over to the Newington extravaganza for coverage for the town to help out Newington. While they cover the extravaganza, we're going to be actually covering the emergency calls in town for them. We're going to send an ambulance with from 6 to midnight and with 3 EMTs going over to help them out. Other than that, you know, I'd like to thank the past administration from the ambulance that with all their past work that they've done for the town and their future work with us with the association. Hopefully we can continue the great work that we've been doing for the past years that we've been going on.
Thank you. Councilor Emmanuel, questions?
No questions. Welcome.
No questions at this time.
No
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you.
Just curious, it started coming back on the radar screen about, you know, maybe the opioid crisis and some of that. Are you in a position to know what your calls are for and your on the drug addiction side of things, or?
I could get that information for you. I don't have it right in front of me. I have, we do have to report those to the state every month through the association and through the hospital.
And one final question, there was a near fatality crash on 91. Did that, on Cromwell Avenue, did that person survive?
As far as I know, I'm not
Chief?
aware.
Yes, so far, yes.
So still in the hospital?
Still in the hospital,
critical?
still alive.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, okay. Thank you.
No problem.
We'll go to the fire department's report now. Chief Garrahy.
Thank you. For the month of June, we responded to 65 incidents, which brought us up to a total of 322 for the year, which is an increase of 25% over last year at this time. 8% of those calls, or 31 times, were calls for assistance to 91.
31?
31 for the 6-month period. And a couple of the totals and averages, out of those 65 calls for June, our average attendance was 16 and a half members, and it brought the total number of attending to 1,072 for total personnel hours of 1,600. Training hours were 181, and that brought us up to about 1,815, which we are off a little bit from last year, but I expect to see that go up as we have 8 members who will be going to firefighter one certification school within the next 6 weeks. Along the training lines, we did have one deputy chief certified as a fire service instructor. Firefighter injuries were 0, a year-to-date of 4. Staffing remains fairly constant, with 67 active, a total of 73. We put on one new member last month. We had one resignation, member moved to New Mexico, and we had 2 retirements. We also have several leave of absences. 2 of the members hurt from non-line of duty injuries, and 2 administrative leave of absences. Moving on to public relations and recruitment, we met with Newington Fire Department. It's got a very robust recruitment program to pick their brain for some pointers. And you're going to start seeing a lot more information coming out on recruiting for the department. Along those lines, on July 30th at Wayback Burgers on Cromwell Avenue, they're doing a fundraiser, and we'll have a recruitment tent up there. And Chief, I know your plate was very full tonight, so I'm trying not to steal your thunder here, but we're also going to have a recruiting tent and support National Night Out on August 3rd. And from a health and safety standpoint, the department is currently holding at 73% for COVID, or 73% compliances for COVID vaccines. And we're working through a couple bugs on our MSA electronic accountability system. We're working both with the manufacturer, and we're also going to put another accountability hub, Wi-Fi hub, into a piece of apparatus, command vehicle, and to help out with some of that on scene. And that is one other thing. Listening to Chief Custer earlier, indicated we all need to start relying a little bit more on technology. We started with the end of last budget year, and we're going to complete it in the next couple months this budget year, but we're putting into place a drone program with thermal imaging, infrared, video recording, and all the stuff you need for a drone program, which will be available to all departments throughout the town. Once we get it up and running, the plan is to have an educational session for all affected departments or interested departments, and then put it on the line. I expect that to be up and running quite possibly by October 1st.
Wow. Thank you. Councilor Emmanuel?
No questions? No?
Councilor Prakash?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, can you talk a little bit about the drone program and how it will help you operationally from a day-to-day perspective?
Currently, right now, nobody has capabilities of any aerial sightings. We'd have to rely on a TV station or somebody who brought one to the scene. Most recently, last week, I believe it was, or possibly the week before, we had a tractor-trailer down the embankment through 2 sets of guardrails down the embankment and wound up behind Dakota's restaurant. That particular device would have been extremely helpful in mapping out everything from the combustible liquid leak when he split his saddle tanks right down to checking the area for additional victims. As we were leaving our houses, state police was requesting, and these are their words, specialized rescue equipment. When we got there, luckily, they had originally received a call that the tractor trailer had landed on top of another car. Luckily, that wasn't the case. There was another car involved that got hit, but it stayed on the highway. again, it'll help us with that. Victim locating, everything from missing persons there, right down to a lot of applications with Parks and Rec, as well as the Highway Department.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Just pointing out the alarming fact, and we've been talking about it for a while here in Rocky Hill. It's not new to this two-year cycle of administration, predates that, but 91 is a real draw of resources and time, and it seems like it's escalating.
It's
We have
a
another
dangerous
exhibit
place.
that we'll put up at council, but it's the motor vehicle that, again, I'm stealing from the police chief's good work, but traffic stops and traffic accidents, and this is just the street of Rocky Hill, never mind what goes on 91, which 31, just between our two exits.
Exactly. And it's just a very dangerous place for the responders. Going up there, police, fire, EMS. We put the apparatus in a position just to block the scene, just to protect ourselves working in that area.
How do you manage in 71% humidity and 91-degree heat to wear the gear and effectively muscle through an accident?
You are throwing a great deal of personnel at that accident. You're rotating crews in and out. Rehab, a lot of water, a lot of hydration. We have a phenomenal, we're lucky to have this, a phenomenal mutual aid system for the fire service right in our area, specifically with Task Force 51. So if it ever escalates to that point, we can bring in additional help. So, and it's come to that a few times.
Thank you. That being said, moving on to emergency management, looking to Chief Custer.
So, town manager announced that I'll be acting as interim emergency management director until such time that a full-time director is hired, and I believe we'll be talking about that a little later, further down the agenda. So, in the meantime, I'm happy to announce that Jim Belanger has agreed to continue working alongside with me on emergency management issues. So, one of the things we've decided, we want to continue with our EOC meetings regarding the pandemic, COVID pandemic. So we're meeting now once a month. And we understand the numbers are low, but I'm a little concerned about the Delta variant. To get an update from the health director shortly, so I'll leave that to him. So, we'll be monitoring the numbers, but we're going to meet just once a month at this time and see where things proceed with the pandemic. In addition to that, we've met with John Murphy from the town IT department regarding website page for emergency management. Jim's had some discussions with him relative to the layout and some features for that page. So that's kind of a work in progress, but making some headway with that as well. Happily, I had my first incident, tropical storm. Was it Isabel? I forget which one. Didn't turn out to be much, so that was easy. We got through that one okay, and hopefully it'll be a while before the next one comes through. That's all I have at this time.
Amen to that. You'll still include the mayor and the deputy mayor on the invite
Absolutely.
for emergency management once a month, or however it ramps up, if it
Yes, we will.
has to ramp up. All right, I appreciate that. Questions from Councilor Emmanuel? Councilor Prakash, questions for the emergency management acting director?
Not at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this time, I just want to know a note of thanks. He's not able to be here, injured back. Rich Renstrom was holding down the place of emergency management director, and we certainly thank Rich for meeting those needs of the public safety officer, town manager John Mayer during the preceding period. So thank you, Rich, for doing that. And old business. Update from Central Connecticut Health District. Not old business, Charlie.
No, I'm old and I have business. Thank you. Just an update real quick.
Charlie Brown.
Yep, Charles Brown, Health Director for the Central Connecticut Health District. An update real quick on the numbers as of this afternoon, about 3 o'clock for Rocky Hill. 1,814 total cases. We stand at 123 fatalities in the town of Rocky Hill. That number of 123 has been since April 28th. So we have not had a fatality since April 28th. As you mentioned, the Delta variant is of concern. We are actually starting to see numbers of cases go up. Here in the last 6 weeks, we had gone down to, fairly good number of days where we had no cases whatsoever within the district. Here in the last week and a half, we've seen a couple cases a day rise to 5 or 6 cases a day by the end of last week. As of this morning, we had 14 new cases. Some of them are breakthrough cases where people have been vaccinated and have been, reinfected with what we're assuming is the Delta variant. That is the predominant strain of the virus that's going around in Connecticut at this time. So we continue to monitor these, work with the state epidemiologists so that they have understanding of what's going on, and then follow up and contact trace to assure that people are being quarantined and isolated appropriately. And I stand ready to answer any question. Oh, one other thing. Opioids was mentioned here as well. We just hired or are in the process of hiring a recovery coach for our How Can We Help Opioid recovery program. So hopefully they'll be able to tie in with some information from the town to be able to get some resources to folks that are struggling with opioid addiction.
Councilor Emmanuel, questions?
No questions.
Councilor Prakash.
A quick question. In terms of the Delta variant and its effects, in terms of where our rate of vaccination is in the state, right? Mm-hmm. How concerned you are with its spreading in community like Rocky Hill?
I'm very happy with the rate of vaccination that we have for most of our towns. We are not at 100% where I'd like us to be. And, this virus does have an opportunity to take advantage of that. So I encourage everyone that can be vaccinated to take advantage of that. There's still many opportunities to be vaccinated. You can just about get one anywhere. How concerned am I about Delta? It does spread, so it is much more contagious, than the original strain of the virus. And that's what we're seeing is it's spreading much faster. The severity of the disease is not much more. So we're not seeing more fatalities. We're not seeing many more hospitalizations related to the difference between the original strain and Delta. That may change. As more people get infected, the number of hospitalizations are, going to increase as well, just through a matter of, just the numbers. They're going to go up and there's going to be more opportunity. People that are vaccinated generally tend to not have as severe of symptoms when they're contract a variant of this particular virus at this time. So vaccination not only may protect you from getting it at all, if you do get it, it will help to protect you from hopefully ending up in the hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Ed, just one question.
Absolutely.
Charlie, is there the 14 new cases? Is it like an age group that's younger people as opposed to
what we've seen is some household clusters, so some younger folks, in a family household. So we've seen 2 or 3 of those among the 14 that we saw today. But there were a number of, it's younger people that are getting this. Our seniors, rose to the challenge, and I think the majority of all 4 of our towns, the seniors have gotten the vaccination. So the virus is starting to go where there's opportunity, and that's within the younger cohorts.
And unvaccinated.
And those unvaccinated especially.
Thank you.
Charlie, the state passed the marijuana bill, and I know in the past you've warned folks, hey, smoking is still smoking.
Yes.
So I don't think the state is advocating to smoke marijuana like cigarettes or vaping is just as much of a hazard.
Yes, 100%. So, as a public health professional, a lot of times recreational drugs, are an issue for us because, for one thing, a lot of study hasn't been done as to the effects, long-term effects of people that partake in that. We have, that for alcohol, we have that for other things. But we're still trying to really grapple with what are going to be the long-term effects of use of this over time. I mean, it's definitely going to impact the health of our communities, and it's something that we should be concerned with.
Thank you. I think we're all set. No questions from the chiefs on that. New business, Emergency Management Director job description.
In your packets were a job description created by Dana McGee for the new position that was approved by the town council in this year's budget. And also on your table is a schedule prepared by Fire Chief Gary relating to what some of the neighboring towns are doing as far as emergency management.
Thank you, Chief Gary. I know Dana's in the audience. Did you want to make a comment on the job description? Only if you have a question. Only if you have a question. I turn to Councilor Emmanuel.
Mike, on this list of towns, I mean, am I reading this right? There's only 1 out of 10 that has a dedicated non-fire chief, non-police chief EMD?
Yeah, John, and to be truthful with you, this list is several months old, maybe six weeks to 2 months old. You'll see Glastonbury has an emergency management director. And if you look down to Hebron has a science teacher who has a fire service background. I believe he's a member of either Hebron or Columbia Fire Departments.
But, I mean, what I'm getting at is for the other 9, including the teacher, this is in addition to their duties, right? So
Yes.
the fire chief in Middletown is also EMD.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks.
That's it. Sure. Councilor Prakash?
Yeah, I have a question for Dana, actually. So Dana, looking at, thank you for being here. When I looked at this job description, it's pretty long.
It is.
Right? It has like 14 essential functions in here.
It is. That's
How
true.
come we never had a full-time emergency management director up till now? Because this is longer than my job description, my day job. And I get full-time, thankfully.
So the job description is actually based on a mixture of job descriptions from the State Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, the State Department of Administrative Services, FEMA, Chapter 517 from the state statutes, and the University of Connecticut. So the job description that you're looking at comes from very large organizations that have this position. And so if you'd like to whittle that down a bit, that's certainly your prerogative. But I would say that what you have before you is based on some of these larger organizations that do have an emergency manager.
Good. No, my point of asking you that question was more about the urgency of this position and the, utility of this position.
Mm-hmm. I would not take the length of the job description as a signal as to urgency. What we try to do with our job descriptions is make sure that we have a catch-all in there, so you have the broad range of what a person could do.
Sure. Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dana, my question's for you as well, or just a comment. We're noticing off of the state website, it's I think the statements are a little broader and try to encompass all those, but this is the state job description, and you've done a great job enumerating all the different things that this quarterback can probably play into.
Right.
Will most likely play into Murphy's Law, right?
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right.
And we did see that with the pandemic. So, John, there's no action to be taken on this new business, on this?
Well, it's on the town council agenda as a new business item but I would assume that the Public Safety Committee supports the job description, lack of a better word. Would be probably
Do we have?
a good gesture, just saying that recommends the job description to the town council, sort of.
Do I have a motion to recommend the draft job description to council?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend this drafted job description for the full council.
I have a second on that? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's recommended to council for tonight at 7. Other business
Thank you.
on the agenda? Thank you, Dana. Other business on the agenda?
Just following up what the mayor requested, that Glastonbury's having a forum on this juvenile crimes. Again, Thursday, this Thursday, July 22nd at 6:30 at their Riverfront Community Center.
Gentlemen, would you like a copy of the invite? Okay. After the meeting, you're welcome to it. Have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Have a second. And before I vote, I'm just going to say, public safety has been extremely active, and I appreciate the tolerance and the effort and the attention that you're giving to Councilor Prakash and Councilor John and myself and the town manager on this. I mean, and ambulance as well. I mean, we seem to be running longer and longer. We create more time, and we have more work to do. So with that being said, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.